I always think it's good when the preacher during the opening prayer for the sermon says it'll be 10 minutes. That's always good. I'll try and stay in 10 minutes. Well, some of you know because you hook up with me during the week, but most of you don't. You see me mostly on Sundays. And this past week, I was not in the church building for a couple days because I was out doing a required clergy meeting. And it lasted for 2.5 days. And it was just awful. I had to be out in the wilderness of the Camp Capers on 2 perfect days, people cooking food for me. We worked so hard for you. We're so overburdened. In any case, for a couple days, we get to listen to people give us information, and we get to share amongst ourselves. It's like a little, sort of like for teachers, we call it in-service training kind of thing. And this one, by the way, one of the themes was how clergy and the people in the church world can actually try to take better care of themselves, kind of physically and mentally, emotionally, all that. So that, well, a couple of reasons. One, you feel better. And 2, our insurance goes down, our health insurance. If I live longer and healthier, you all pay less money in my insurance policy. And so, you know who came to give the talk? The insurance people. They came from New York City, where our insurance is kept, and they gave us some advice on how to live better. One guy talked about how to reduce your stress in your life, and talked about how to be resilient. Oh yeah, it was fine. And then there was a person who talked about how to exercise a little bit, because if you looked around the clergy conference, some of us are a little more rotund than others. I just happen to be a skinny fart, and so nothing I can do to gain weight, but somebody else was talking about nutrition, right? This person was a real foodie in the nutrition world, and he said things like, well, don't eat sugar, and don't eat processed foods, and don't eat fats, and don't eat anything that's white, like potatoes are white, and pasta's white, and don't eat anything white. Then he said, eat broccoli, and then eat some more broccoli. Because that was about all you could eat after he was done talking. In any case, I've been eating broccoli for 3 days, and I think we're about done with that. They did say, they were really quite thorough. They're very professional. I'm making fun, but they're very professional. They do this for a living, training people how to eat and exercise and de-stress. They gave us those little walkie things that tell you how many steps you take in a day. It was kind of a freebie. So walking from the altar to here, I must burn up 5 calories right there. So they did say something really interesting at the end. They said, if you have decided to make a decision to improve your eating habits or your exercise habits, if you have made that decision, the chances of you actually succeeding in the growth or the change you want to make, after you've decided that, what do you think the percentage is? How many people, once they've decided to eat healthy and get exercise and de-stress, make a change, what percentage do you think are successful? 8? 5? Yeah, it's about 10. 10%. And then they said, well, if you have made a decision because of our talk, to do something different, and you write it down on a piece of paper and write a plan down, your chances of success go higher to maybe 25% or something. So after you've made a decision and you've written it down and made your plan, and you tell somebody else about your plan, you tell somebody else, this is what I'm going to do, then your chances go up higher. Some people have said, I thought you weren't supposed to tell anybody your goals. I said, no, if you do tell somebody your goals, your intentions, then the chances of you following through it go up. And then finally they said, What do you think has to happen for the chance of success to go up to about 90%? What do you think has to happen next? Not only tell somebody, but let that person hold you accountable. And text you or call you on the phone. It's almost like the buddy system. Or like having a coach. If you could have a coach or someone to really walk through the steps with you, then your chances of making a change and growing are pretty high. So I didn't tell anybody about that. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Amen, brother. By the way, just to improve your health today, we canceled the gospel lunch, which was full of fried chicken and fried everything and fried everything. We do have some broccoli for you on the door. You'll be blessed on your way. So I bring all this up because you all know this from lots of other parts of your life, that if you have a coach or a mentor or somebody you are following, then that's really a pretty successful part of your life. And if you don't, if you're just on your own trying to figure it out, or just going with your good intentions about a good idea you had, then your chances of following through are not so good. I mean, people know this from all different kinds of disciplines. So not only is it like fitness, if you have a fitness partner or a fitness coach, you'll do better. If you're like Oprah Winfrey and you can have somebody cook all your food for you, and then you'll be more successful in your diet. If you're a musician, like Judy Gurel gives a lesson, and she coaches people on how to learn piano and some other instruments. And she runs a shop. She actually works besides this job here. And her students will be successful if they go to the lessons. And they practice and they follow up. She said, did you do your lessons? Did you practice? And that makes them do better. People in the 12-step programs know this really well. You can go to attend a 12-step program for whatever compulsion you're trying to beat, and you can go to a lot of meetings and learn a lot of information, but until you pick up a sponsor, a coach, says, would you do this with me? Because this is much harder than I thought. Once you get your sponsor, then your chances of recovery skyrocket. Very much in the same vein, the same thing is true in our religious life and in our discipleship and in our intentions to walk with Christ. Paul says in the first letter to the Thessalonians that those people had become imitators of him. They really became imitators and followers of Paul and Christ, but they had someone to walk with and to model what it means to be a Christian and what it means to go through different parts of their life as a Christian. And then they were so successful that they became models and examples for the churches around them. So I won't quote the verse for you, but if you want to go back and dig in the middle of that paragraph on the second page, you'll say, Thessalonians, you were imitators of Paul. And then you were so successful that you became an example for the other churches around you. So this has lots of implications. For instance, how important do you think hearing a sermon is? 10%. If it was a good sermon, you might hear a good idea. And the chances of you implementing that good idea by yourself, not very good. Sermons don't really work. We put all this time into sermons and homilies and preaching and study the Bible. How important is it for you to read another book that some clergy person says, this is the greatest book, it will change your life. Read this book. Will it change you? Well, you get some more good ideas. They go with the other good ideas on my bookshelf, along with what I should eat broccoli. So it's funny, because what do we do most of the time in the church? We preach at people and we tell them to go take a class. But I don't think it works all that good. Suppose you actually had someone you thought, you admired their life. They were doing something in their life that you thought, that's what I would like to be like. then the best thing you could do is go follow them. Ask them, what do you do? How do you pray? How do you pray? Show me how you pray. Whether it's a prayer book, or whether it's meditation, or whether it's Lectio Divina, whether it's simply being quiet. How do you get quiet? How do you quiet your mind? I don't want to read another book on meditation. I want somebody to show me how to do that. Find somebody you admire and then begin to follow them, and then, gosh, things might be really different. So, I promise to be a 10-minute sermon. We're right about there. A lot of good ideas get tossed around in church, and lots of good ideas get tossed around in your life. And the chances of them taking root in your life and in my life, they skyrocket depending on whether I have a coach to follow, a person, a real flesh and blood person that can hold me accountable and who I can talk to, who I can work with. And it seems to hold true whether you're talking about dieting or exercise or playing piano or recovering from addiction or following Jesus. Somebody's got to show me. I need to see it. And I need them to walk with me. You know who's really good at this? The Order of St. Luke. One of their main functions is to help people understand and experience the healing that can happen through Jesus Christ. And so they don't just do teaching. They say, come to our service and you'll have people who will show you how to pray, and they'll show you what can happen and show you what to do when it doesn't happen. But it's very much a hands-on, I'll show you, follow me kind of ministry. So, I promised 10 minutes, but let's just end with this. If you'd like to move forward in your Christian life, find somebody, probably isn't going to be me, but find somebody you kind of like who's doing okay, and you say, I want to be like you in this way. I'm not saying you're perfect, but hey, you seem like you have your act together. How do you do it? Can you show me? Everybody needs a Paul to follow, in addition to following Jesus. So I ask you, how's your life going? And do you probably have a lot of good ideas? Let's try to find someone like Paul, or find a real flesh and blood person to be our mentor, to be the one we follow, in a trade system where someone says, you know, there's a journeyman and there's a master. You seem, Gloria, to master a lot of Christianity. If people came to you and said, how do you do it? You should say, I don't know, but come follow me, I'll show you what I do. Find your master to follow. Find your Paul, and following Jesus might become a whole lot easier. I offer this to you in God's name, God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.